Welcome to the Wild Type Podcast. I'm Neptune the Chameleon.
I'm Lyssa Lizards.
And we're your reptile girlies. So it might be November for you guys, but for us, as of recording this, we just had your Halloween party yesterday.
We did, and I'm so happy. It went off so well. Everything turned out perfect, and I'm just really excited. I'm like buzzing
you should be
still.
So proud.
Thank you. I am. I'm very proud.
It was fantastic. Everyone was so complimentary, and like I've seen the bits and pieces.
Well, because you get to come to our house every week. So you've because this has been like a labor of love for, I would say, at least the last month. I've been like slowly like adding things, and you've gotten to see the progression.
All the Amazon packages. Because I come over weekly, right, guys? So then, like, it's like, well, this week I got this. And this week I got this. And I'm going to do this with that. I got these little candles. I got these little webs. And
yeah.
Right? So I've been able to see it come together, but I haven't seen it all together. And at night with, like, the lights and everything.
Yeah.
Like, you had it, like, a projector.
So we have this like big wall. That was actually one of my favorite parts of the whole like decor.
I hope people noticed it.
Well, everybody was saying you could see it. So our entryway, we've got like a big window, and then and so you could see it from the street. So sorry to everybody listening. Let me explain real quick. We've got this big blank wall. Like our ceilings are really high in our entryway, and so there's this like big blank wall kind of over some of the stuff that kind of over the stairs, I guess. And then there's a window to the street, like above our front door.
It's like where you put a chandelier.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a big open space, and you would totally be able to see a chandelier if there was one there.
Exactly. And so we have we put a little projector up there and projected like old black and white Halloween movie scenes, and apparently you could see it from the street.
It was
which was
good.
So cool.
I will say, did not notice that. One, because you had hanging candles,
we did,
which were cool.
Yes.
And two, I had a tray of eyeball cake pops. I was trying really hard not to drop, so I was not paying attention.
You were very focused, very focused. Not
paying attention, unfortunately, to your projector through the
and her eyeball cake pops, guys, were. Not only were they some of the best cake balls I've ever tasted, they were fantastic, but they were so freaking cute. They were these little eyeballs, and they had forks stabbed into them.
Yeah.
So it was easily like accessible for people to like grab and eat. They were so cute with all my food spread that I did. It was perfect.
I'm very happy with how they turned out,
because
it was a little panicky there. I sent you like an SOS text because I think we told you guys this for weeks now. Have been sending you cute like Halloween, usually like food or dessert things, but also like decor ideas and stuff like that. And we both settled on these eyeball cake balls.
We loved them.
I was like, "Are you cool if I make these?"
I was like,
and you're
hell
like,
yes.
So I was going to make the fork and the eyeball, the whole thing. I make my cake balls and I melt my chocolate and I go to dip them, and it's like not working. Like my chocolate was seizing up. For anyone who like watches a baking show, my chocolate was not tempered properly. No. I think it was old chocolate or just like
that might do
something with it just like wasn't working. I went through like 3 different batches of chocolate.
Dude, you slaved for those chocolate balls.
And then I
you
go
did great.
to the grocery store. I get different chocolate. I melt it and it's buttery smooth. I'm like, we're back.
There we go.
We're back. So then, but at this point, it's like 7 p.m. Party's at 8:30 is like when you said it was going to start. And I was like, we don't have much time. And I'm trying to do like a little detail and little like blood, coming out of the.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
They looked so freaking good.
Yeah.
I think that was one of my favorite things in like the spread of food that I did. Oh. Like I did like a little meat charcuterie hand and like a little mummy brie cheese and like all this fun stuff, and so it was so fun. The party
was fantastic. Costumes were stellar.
Thank you.
Logan was DJing.
He was.
That was cool.
So fun.
Campbell, I feel like it's MVP for the night.
He did so good. I was a little nervous because this was his first time having like that many people at the house, so I didn't know how he would handle it. And he literally was just social butterfly. He wanted to play with everybody. Good. Yeah. All he wanted, he kept throwing his ball at people, being like, throw the ball. Like, so note to self, our dog is an extrovert, and when he's around other people, he gets energy, and a lot of it.
No, he did fantastic. One little moment that made me chuckle. There was someone who was eating an eyeball cake pop.
Yeah.
And cake pops are not like a graceful thing to eat.
No, because they like crack.
And little bit, with the chocolate and everything else.
Yeah.
So he's standing in the backyard. People are like playing beer pong and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And he eats it and half of it falls onto the grass.
Yeah.
And he goes to grab it. And I was like, no, don't eat that. And he's like, threw it in his mouth.
No.
It was Campbell's pea spot.
No.
Because I come here so often, I know exactly where Campbell pees because he pees in the same spot. He takes like 2 steps into the grass and goes, and he like goes for a while. This is like TMI. I'm sorry, Campbell. I'm like putting your dirty laundry out there, but like it's always in the same spot.
It's always in the same, and that's like the patch of grass that's like dried out and like it is like all ruined.
That is where his cake ball landed.
Oh my God, that poor guy. Oh.
And I was like, no. And he just eats it, and I'm like trying to explain like, and he's like, it's fine, I'm a dog guy, whatever. And I was like, you don't understand how much pee is in it.
That's like the one spot in the house that I would never do the 5-second rule.
I know that I have insider information, and so I was trying to save him.
Oh my gosh. Which also, by the way, thank you so much for filling up Campbell's water bowl mid-party. You are also the MVP for that, so highly appreciate.
I felt like I was kind of like honorary host, right?
You're over enough.
Like I feel you and Logan, obviously it was your party, your house, whatever. You guys like did fantastic. But people be like, "Where's the bathroom?" I'm like, right this way.
Right here.
Where's the da-da-da? I'm like, over here. And then I'm like, oh, Campbell, you need some water? I'll get it.
Let me take care of that.
Right. And then someone brought Chick-fil-A nuggets, right? Which was like
good. Clutch. If you're pro tip, if you're going to a party, bring the nugs. That is like such a move.
It was amazing. And they had all the dipping sauces. Yeah. But they were kind of cold, right? Which is like expected.
Yeah.
But then I was like, I know there's a microwave. I know where the microwave is. So I was like, hey, you cool if I heat up some nugs in your microwave?
Of course, I don't care.
So I'm literally like, zzz, like in the middle of the party, heating up these nuggets.
With like black lights and like cloth hanging in the kitchen.
And like whatever else. And I'm just zzz, in the microwave heating up these nuggets.
So fun. And I got to read several of my friends like tarot cards, which was really fun.
Highlight for sure.
That was so fun.
So everyone was in line,
so
like waiting, like everyone wanted to participate.
I genuinely just like set up a little table and was like, if anybody wants one, like I'll do one. But I really didn't think that people would be like that into it. How many do you think
you ended up doing?
I think 6 to 8.
Okay.
I think I can't remember if it was like, but at least 6, potentially 7 or 8.
Okay.
But it was like, because I did like 2 couples, then I did you, then I did, I mean, it was at least like 6 people.
Yeah.
Which I was excited about because I've never done that many.
It was a lot of fun.
And I'm like still learning.
And I can tell how excited you were about it too.
It was so fun. And I love kind of like getting to like demystify some of that stuff and kind of help people understand it in a way that doesn't seem
It was my first time getting a reading, so I appreciated it.
It was very fun. So we had a great time. It is
awesome.
It is my dream to be known as like the Halloween party house, and we are officially on our way for that status.
No, everyone was ready for next year.
I've literally just been waiting until I like had a house and a husband to be able to throw like a big Halloween rager, and it's officially happened, and I'm very happy about it.
No, it's so good. I absolutely loved it. Can't wait for next year.
Yes,
I'll be back.
It's gonna be perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, you're here every week, so.
I know. So it was last night, and it was like, bye. And you could tell they're the friends that you like probably won't see for a couple months. Yeah. It's like, see you tomorrow.
As you were walking out the door, you're like, I'm going to get the leftover cake balls later, right? Like, I'll get that tomorrow. And I was like, whatever. Don't worry. Look, I've got your tray. It's fine.
I was like, I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah.
I know. So good.
For this episode, I think this is going to be really helpful for any of our reptile girlies that are maybe interested in getting reptiles. Yeah. And we've chatted about this a few times, how we do have quite a few listeners that actually don't keep reptiles.
Okay, and I love that fact. And just speaking to our reptile girlies who might be not yet official reptile girlies, because honorary. Girlies. You may not actually have reptiles yet, and some of you may not even have any interest in getting any at all.
And that's cool too.
But like, thank you for listening. We appreciate you guys, and like, I love that we have people who are interested but aren't like in the hobby as well. I think it's so cool.
It is a huge compliment.
100%. And
this is a very niche podcast, and you're very aware of that. Yes. So the fact that you're cool with like tuning in, welcome. Happy you're here.
And it's nice too, because like one of our goals of the podcast is to have like our barrier to entry be like pretty good. And
Yes.
so it's nice because we like knowing that there are people who listen that, you know, don't find it hard to listen even if they don't have them, you know?
Yep.
It's so cool. So big fan.
Yeah. So speaking of which, we were at Animal Con talking to someone who was interested in getting their first reptile, a snake actually. And one thing that they were asking, which is like a very fair question, was like, how much time do you spend taking care of your reptiles? Which then kind of goes into reptile chores and maintenance and like everything else that's involved.
What does the time commitment look like? Like, am I going to be spending 3 hours in my reptile area cleaning out their enclosures every week? Like how much time does this really take? Like what am I sacrificing, right?
Yes. And there's a lot of factors that go into this, like babies versus adults, right? Like
Big
babies
factor.
are going to eat way more often, require a lot more time than say an adult, whereas adult reptiles aren't eating daily.
Right. And people don't talk about the fact that if you've had a lot of adults for a while, like a lot of my animals are older now. I haven't really had a baby in a while. And I remember when I got Nessie after not having any babies for a while, I was like, oh my God, I forgot this is a lot more work.
When I got Venus.
Yeah.
And also like her teeny itty bitty bugs.
Oh, they're so small.
Because I had to buy two different sizes. I had to get the medium, large, whatever, in between size for my adults. And I had to get like the little extra smalls.
Aww.
And like I don't touch my bugs, which is like a thing. But so here I am with my tongs trying to get these like itty bitty dubia roaches.
And they eat like 20, 30 of them.
Yeah.
So it's
I'm
a lot.
Like having to do this every single day. And I'm like, I forgot
how
much time goes into this.
There's a big difference. So just be aware. If having the babies is a lot more of a time commitment.
Very
just
cute,
a little more.
but
It's very cute, but it's the frequency too. It's like every single day you're doing a lot more insects.
Yes.
And so also costs. There's just a lot of factors there.
Yes. Yeah, and that's a good point too, like the frequency, because lizards are going to eat more often
than snakes
are. So like the species you
makes
keep.
a big difference as well. I mean, it's, you know, if you're somebody that, you know, doesn't want to be feeding your animals every single day, then a snake's probably for you. If you're somebody that wants to have those daily interactions with your animals and doing all of that, which, I mean, you should be interacting with them daily regardless, but you know what I mean?
But you can just like poke your head in the enclosure, be like, you good?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Versus having to like actually feed them and everything.
So, but if you want an animal that you are like really catering to every day or every other day, then maybe a lizard is more your speed, you know? So
all considerations.
Yeah. All good little differences.
So one of the big chores obviously is feeding. And so like we talked about snakes, lizards, babies, adults, but also the diet itself can vary.
Yeah.
You've got some species that are herbivores, right? Who do just salads, some that are omnivores, but like you're literally chopping up your salads and everything.
And the variety is crazy because there's like all the leafy greens, there's the vegetables, there's some of them have fruit, some of them have meat, some of them have live whole prey,
but
some of them have insects.
Prep all that.
Yes,
Gecko
a lot.
Food,
Gecko
that's
food.
another one.
Yeah. So it's like the variation of what they could be eating depending on their species is a lot. And that is something to consider too.
And the time for that is going to be different. Thawing out a frozen mouse is very different than picking out 20 teeny tiny dubia roaches, which is different than, you know, a salad or whatever.
And speaking of thawing out your rats, you got to do that earlier in the day than when you're feeding them. So you have to remember that, which that's a whole like little thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's...
you thought your chicken for your dinner later and your snake's rat.
The amount of times that Logan walks into the kitchen and is like, ooh, rats. Okay. It's a lot. I actually was saying that at the party last night to one of his friends. Because obviously when people come over, they all want to see the reptile room and all that stuff. And so I was showing a couple of them and one of them was like, so what do you feed? Like, do you feed them live, you know, whatever? And I was like, no, they're frozen. And one of Logan's friends was like, you just like leave that like on the counter. And I was like, yeah, ask Logan about it. Absolutely.
This is because we did the episode of like living with someone who keeps reptiles. Like this is the reality of like the territory.
Yep. And he was even asking, he was like, do you have like a special freezer? And I was like, no, we have a special section in our freezer. And he like looked at in the kitchen.
See, not everyone's okay with it. And that's fine. That's just, you're either good or you're not. And like, that's just how that goes.
Yeah. So.
Okay. So feeding is one. Next is like water / like water changes / like misting / water bowls / all that.
And that's another one that just has so many variations. Because like you said, there are aquatic species, right? Like turtles, things like that, and like even Tarzan, when I get his new big 8-foot enclosure that's going to have a water feature, that's going to be a whole new level of maintenance that I'm currently not doing, right? Because right now he just has like a big water bowl. Yeah. But this is going to be more of like a pond and like I'm going to have stuff like that. So it'll be a very different situation. And so there's just a lot of water features, things like that. There's water bowls. There are misting systems, hand versus hand misting versus like all. So there's a lot of variations there as well.
Tips from the pros here. Automate as much as you can.
Everything. Automate everything.
Because if you have an automatic misting system, your time involved in that is minuscule.
Yes.
You're filling up the reservoir for your misting, which like for me is probably one of the most time consuming chores I have, because I use filtered water that's in my sink, that's in my kitchen, that is down the hallway, around the corner, and that filter thing, I can only get like 1.5 pitchers before it like is like, okay, I need a moment to like recalibrate or whatever. And like I'm going through a lot of water, but I don't want to just use sink water. I want to use like some sort of filtered water, and like I have this whole system. So I'm like, but it is so cumbersome to carry my pitcher back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Not gonna lie, this is why I just buy the jugs of water at the store. I just get like spring or like reverse osmosis water at the store.
But then my garage is even further, so I don't have to carry the tub, like, you know, from my car.
These are such
through
like
the garage,
ridiculous
into the house,
first world problems.
Oh, absolutely. But this is just the reality of like, you know. But personally, that's one of the most like time consuming chores. Is like
that's
just filling
totally fair. And just speaking on the waterfront, as somebody who has not set up their Miss King after living in this current house for over a year.
You've just accepted your fate.
I've just accepted my fate, and I've been hand misting for over a year now. And don't get me wrong, part of me really likes it. Like I do genuinely enjoy it, because it is like a little bit more like quality time with the pets, of being able to be like, hey, how you doing? Like, you know, look, it's just, I like a little bit of the hand misting, but I am very ready to set up my Mist King and get that back done, because I will say that is a big difference in my time every evening.
Yep.
Like, so just thinking about the actual time commitment and what that looks like for that kind of maintenance, the hand misting ends up taking up, I would go as far as potentially like a good like 20 minutes of my night. And that's every day, versus when I have the misting set up, I don't even have to think about it.
Right.
So that it's, like I said, it's kind of been just a part of my routine for the last year, so I haven't hated it, but I'm definitely ready to get back.
Yep. So that's a consideration. That's part of the maintenance of reptile keeping.
Speaking of automation, real quick, but the lighting as well. Automating your lighting.
If you do not have an outlet timer, a smart plug, or something, that is a game changer. It's also nice to just have routine with your reptile, so their lights are consistent as far as they're going on and off. I know a lot of people will ask me like, hey, I go to school at this time, but like I'm up before, or like, hey, I work nights or have an early morning shift, or like whatever it is for your schedule. Having that is just so nice, and it's like peace of mind. You know it's good.
I granted, there's a lot of different options you can go there. Like you said, there's just the regular outlet timers. Those are real cheap at like hardware stores and things. But I will sing the praises of smart plugs forever, because those I can check them from anywhere. I don't have to be in my home. Right. I can check them from anywhere, make sure that they're working, and it all goes smoothly, and I have it all in an app on my phone. It is a godsend. Like, I will preach about smart plugs until the day that I die. So definitely a good move, just in terms of, otherwise you have to
manually flip them on and off every day,
and depending on your setup, like think about it, some of my enclosures have 3 different lights. We got heat, we got UVB, and we got plant. And then we got 10 reptiles. You think I'm going around flipping 30 switches? 30 switches?
No.
Hell no. You couldn't. No. Absolutely not. But I will say, some people like that. Some people like that as part of their routine.
Yes, and it's totally what is best for you in your lifestyle.
It's your personal preference.
I like timers.
I'm an automation girl. I think it is. I think it's the best thing in the world.
It's also good for vacations.
Yeah, that's real handy.
And Halloween parties. So then you don't have to worry about turning off your reptiles lights. Yes. Yeah. So that's one. Speaking of lights, though, another maintenance thing is like having to replace your bulbs, which is like not a lot of time, but like is a thing, and you need to keep a couple spare bulbs. At least I try to, so when they go out, then I'm like prepared. But then another thing is I have a solar meter, so that I'm measuring my UVB bulbs, and I try to do that about once a month for all of mine. So that's just like going in with the meter, it measures the UV index of the UVB bulb.
Just a pro tip: I need to finally invest in mine. I still haven't, and I really need to finally invest in a solar meter, just because like for me, I'm not doing that. So because I don't have that ability to like check all all that. I mean, I could borrow yours, but you know what I mean?
You're always welcome.
I know. And so I need to take you up on that more. But basically what most people do, depending on the type of bulb that you have, it's you pretty much have to swap them out every like 6-ish months or so. So that kind of goes into a little bit of another like thing on the list that we have of part of your maintenance is tracking things, right? And that it's not a huge time commitment, but just like making sure, specifically I will say with snakes and feeding, making sure that you have that all down there. And then in that tracking, you can also, if you don't have a solar meter, make sure that you have like
The
something,
dates for your bulbs.
the dates for your bulbs.
Your supplement schedule, your feeding schedule. You can track their weights if you're like regularly weighing your reptiles. Like I think it's important to have that documented, especially if things start to go south and you can look back of like when was the last time they ate, what is their normal weight, like things like that. And I will do a little plug. Like I do have a digital,
I was gonna say,
a reptile keeper journal. It's like I think $15 on my website. Super like cheap because you buy it once and you can print out those pages for like literally any reptile you have for like their entire life.
I still need to use that. I need to print yours out. I still haven't. I literally like bought a printer and that was like one of the things I want to do and I just keep forgetting. But there are lots of different methods. So like
there's plenty. This is just one option. It's what I do, but you know, everyone's got their thing.
And her tracker is honestly superior in a lot of ways because it's very robust. It has like every single thing that you potentially could, even like crazy stuff that like you don't have to track, but like it's a nice to have. Like, so that is fantastic. I personally currently am just using my notes app, but I've used a lot of different methods. I've used like different journals and had like different,
you had a whiteboard.
I had a whiteboard calendar for a while, but then I realized that every month when I was erasing it, I wasn't like keeping, and then that's when I started doing the journals. And then because I started documenting everything in the journals, I stopped using the whiteboard. And then now I've switched over to my phone because I eventually lost one of my journals. So it's just been like a process, you know?
You find what works for you.
Just figure out, your own method. But tracking and keeping up with that is a little bit of a part of your maintenance. Yeah. So, and like you said, with the light bulbs too, and that's just something you can keep note of.
I do want to put in this also a little tidbit of information for UVB bulbs. While we were animal calling, I was talking to some of the Zoo Med reps, and they're saying that their bulbs should be replaced every 12 months. So I think right now standard is like Arcadia bulbs are every 12 months. Zoo Med is every 6 months. I've actually used Zoo Med. It's what comes in my Chameleon kit, and I've measured with my solar meter, and they're good for the year. At least the bulbs I've used. Okay. So I do think people can extend the life of their UVB bulbs closer to a year, but like the only way to know for sure
having a solar meter.
Is with the solar meter because there are sometimes just bad bulbs. Just like in production, right?
Also, if you're getting your bulbs from like pet stores and things like that, I have definitely seen cases and situations of like bulbs being like older. Ending up in the box somehow and different things. And so it's, things you never happen. Know.
But the only way for sure is with a solar meter, but they're also $250. So like totally get it if that is not in your budget. Totally.
It is understand. It's at the top of my to get list. Have you guys checked out the Palm Street app yet? Pangea is going live in the Palm Street app every Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. They'll be doing giveaways every 10 minutes and geckos are starting at $1. They also have the cheapest shipping for reptiles on the Palm Street app, and they don't even charge extra shipping for additional geckos. And don't miss their free shipping on dry goods supplies purchased in their store.
And be on the lookout at the end of November for their Black Friday sales. Head on over to PangeaReptile.com to take advantage of all their great deals. Geckos, isopods will be on sale along with BOGOs throughout the store. Creature Farm is a women and family-owned business dedicated to reptiles, amphibians, and creatures of all kinds.
They breed and sell some exciting species along with their cute merch, but what they're most well known for is their species signs for all your pets' enclosures.
Their wooden species signs feature a hand-drawn illustration of the animal, common and scientific names, plus key information about the species.
You can even add your pet's name for a custom touch. With over 300 species, they're likely to have one for each of your scaly critters. Use the code WILDTYPE for 15% off your order at creaturefarmanimals.com.
So another part of maintenance reptile chores is cleanup. And even if you have bioactive enclosures, which you have your cleanup crew and like they're eating the poop and whatever else, like you're still picking up poop.
Yeah, well, yeah, especially because like, for example, and again, there's lots of variations with all of these things, like we've already said. But for example, like the snakes, like, yeah, sure, I got cleanup crew in there, but like you think that that's going to take,
a big
that's
poop.
you think Hazel's big old poop is getting eaten up by a couple of isopods? No, I don't think so. So I'm picking up her poop every time I see it, you know? Right. So it's like that's definitely something that you're going to be doing regardless of bioactive or not. Pretty much the only, and granted, my bioactives are not currently thriving. All my plants are like pretty much all dead currently. And so I'm working on that. But like for me, the species that I really don't have to pick up poops is just my New Caledonian geckos because theirs are much smaller. And also, so
they poop on your front door.
Yeah. So it's
the
like
enclosures.
Which is another part of the cleanup. I always have to I'm always having to like swipe off cleaning the glass.
Clean the glass, pick up the poop, pick up any like dead leaves. If they shed, you got to pick up that chameleon shed in pieces. So it's like bits and pieces everywhere, the little flakies. So you have to go in and like
same
get
with
those.
Nilla's, my northern blue tongue skink.
Scales.
They're little scaly chunks. And so I've gotten to the point where they just like litter her enclosure. And I will say, if you do have cleanup crews and things like that, they will nibble on the shed. So you don't have to get every single little piece, but it is a lot. And you do still have to kind of like pick it up.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a lot of the maintenance for sure. You will be picking up poop even if you have bioactive. So just be aware.
Yeah. So I probably do that because people ask me like how often I do that. I would say like about once a week. I go through and like I'll pick out any like dead leaves off the plants, poop off the bottom.
Honestly,
shed it if they shed. But obviously, if there's something sitting there, to be clear, I'll just take care of it. I'm not like waiting till like
I was gonna say it's
a certain day of the week.
That's one of those that like it's really hard to like put like a time estimate to like how much time I spend doing that, or even like thinking about it, because it's just one of those things where like if I see it and I pick it up. So it's like it's one of those weird. And then I will have like I would say like at least like every week or two, I will really thoroughly go through and be like looking for everything.
Well, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Those will probably take me like 20, 30 minutes to like go through and like in like real detail.
Yeah.
But then I'm also doing plant maintenance at the same time that I'm doing all that because I'm picking out dead leaves, but then I'm also like individually watering plants that require more water than what my misters can provide.
Yeah, I was going to say, because you definitely like certain plants, and like in my arid enclosures, like Charlie has some like succulents and stuff in there. Like I have to water those, right?
Yeah.
Like, because he doesn't have a mister. So I have to specifically water those like, every week. And so there's plant maintenance in that regard. But then there's also, if you do have a bioactive enclosure and you have some plant overgrowth, you have to take time trimming your plants. Like that's something people don't talk about as like a maintenance factor.
Or potentially like repotting your plants if they're in pots, or this one's not doing great, so you swap it out with a different plant. Like there's just general plant maintenance if you do decide to use live plants.
Yeah, that's definitely a factor I feel like is overlooked just in terms of like the timing of things. There's also maintenance that goes into like just getting the plants in general, making sure they're pest free, all that stuff. So there's a lot of maintenance there.
I still have mealybugs and I don't want to talk about it. So
yeah, I mean, there's a reason that my bioactives are not thriving, and it's because I am truly letting all of the mealybugs die out. There will not be a single mealybug egg left, so that way when I finally like redo all my bioactives, which is slowly happening, like
mealybugs.
No, there's a reason I've kind of let all of mine die out and pulled out all the plants, because they were all infested. We're still bitter if you can't tell.
And then water buckets, that's another one. So with chameleon enclosures, you can do bioactive, but most people end up starting out simple with just like PVC bottoms. We have to have some sort of drainage water bucket. I know you with like Tarzan have his water and like he likes to poop in that. So you got to like change that out. So like any large like water things that are collecting large water that could potentially get like contaminated, like that is a little time consuming to have to like deal with all that.
I would say that in terms of like snake maintenance, it obviously depends on the snake and like their species and whatnot. But if you do keep like bigger snakes with bigger water bowls, that is easily one of like, I would say one of the more annoying maintenance things. Like having to balance a poopy water bowl down the hallway to my bathroom is literally the one thing that I probably hate doing, is making sure that I don't spill poopy water all over my house. So,
or yourself.
Or myself. Yeah. It's happened a lot.
Yeah.
So just be aware if you're leaning towards snakes because you don't have to feed them every day, just know that you're going to be carrying poopy water all over your house all the time.
Yep. And same with like food containers, having to like clean those out because eventually they get like coated in supplements or like, you know, whatever else. So like you have to like clean those. That takes a little bit of time.
And scrubbing out the water bowls for sure. Because
that's included
just like,
in the...
Just like if you don't know this, clean your water bowls because it develops bacteria and film and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So like you have to scrub their water. I would say for me, it's every like week and a half that I will go and just like scrub out all of them.
Yeah. And I'm doing that with food bowls too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's definitely an important part.
Okay. And something that's kind of slept on is bug maintenance. A frozen
yes.
rat, no maintenance. A salad. No. Yes, there's maintenance in the prep, but like you're not trying to keep your salad alive, you know? Right. But like you do have to keep your bugs alive. Mm-hmm. And you have to gut load them.
Yep.
Which no one talks about. Well, not that no one talks about, but like I feel like it's kind of like this like, you know, mystical thing for new keepers of like gut loading. What is it? No one really really knows.
There's a learning curve.
But that's time consuming because now you're prepping basically salads for your bugs.
Yeah.
Then you have to keep the bugs clean. Yep. So even if you're not breeding bugs, which neither of us breed bugs, but that's a whole nother maintenance thing.
We won't even get into that.
We have to like pick out the dead bugs. Yeah. You have to pick out their poop. Hornworm poop is disgusting.
God, I will say it's the smell of hornworm poop is the least bad of all the bug smells in my opinion.
Mine is not the smell of it; it's how it gets everywhere.
Yeah, it does. It really gets everywhere. It's gross.
And even if I like dump it over a trash can and I close the lid, there's always one little poop kibble.
That's squished.
Kibble, nibble, whatever it is. That's like squished in the lid, and it's just like.
Just gross. There's a lot of gross stuff that comes with reptiles, if we're being really honest.
Yeah.
Like
we love, that takes some time.
We love it, but just be aware. It's not all sunshine, rainbows, and scales, right?
Yeah. But those are I think the big ones we had when it comes to just like general reptile chores, general reptile maintenance. Automate as much as you can. Track what you can. Be mindful of like what you can handle because as you get more reptiles or different reptiles, right? Like that's going to drastically like whenever I pet sit for you, it takes me like almost 2 hours.
Yeah. No, it's a lot.
Granted, I'm doing like everything for everyone where you like stagger yours out.
Yeah. Mine, it's like I have a schedule where like Mondays and Thursdays I do this and like Tuesdays and Fridays look like this and Wednesdays look like this and my weekends and I kind of stagger my schedule so that the majority of my stuff is going on Monday through Thursday so that if or when I do have like weekend trips, it's not that hard to leave. So I specifically plan and follow my pet schedule so that it's mostly Monday through Thursday, but then I have like a little small things like on the weekends and then obviously my like nightly misting while I'm hand misting and stuff. But you can kind of space it out, but it took me though years to get this down because with 10 different species, and that's something that just anybody should be aware of, when you're deciding like getting into reptiles, like what do you want your little reptile family to look like? Because that plays a big role into your time. Like you said, when you come over, it's like you're doing everything for the whole week. So it's like a 2-hour process versus when I'm doing it, I've got it all spaced out, but it's taken me years to figure out the schedule that works for the variety that I have. Right. Mm-hmm. And for you, yours is pretty turnkey because you've got similar species eating similar schedules with similar diets. Yep. So it's much more turnkey, much more simple in that way. I mean, it's still a lot of work, but it's a little easier to maintain and manage. Absolutely. But just be aware, like if you want a variety is really cool. I prefer to have a variety. That is my preference. I love having a variety, but it means a variety in schedules, a variety in care.
In literally every way possible.
Every way possible. And so it took me, and that's something I really didn't think about, which is why I'm like really emphasizing it here for you guys, because while I love it and I wouldn't change a thing, it's definitely something that I think people don't think about because there was definitely a time period in my life where I was like, what day is it? Who am I feeding when? And what? Oh God, I'm like forgetting. And it took me, I would say at least like 2 years to really like nail down, okay, Mondays and Thursdays, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, this and that. And like,
so you got your groove now.
Yeah. But it took time, which is also part of the reason I'm like, I haven't gotten any new reptiles in a hot minute because I really like the groove that I'm in. Mm-hmm. It's very easy. I've got it all figured out.
I'm very nervous for when I have the babies. Hopefully, the babies, because now I have like probably 20 plus like little ones to have to take care of.
Well, which, like we said earlier, 20 plus baby chameleons who are eating
2 times a day.
2 times a day, who are eating how many?
I think it's like 20 to 30, like flightless fruit flies or whatever.
20 to 30 flightless fruit flies times potentially 20 plus babies.
Yeah.
Times twice a day.
Do you know how many little teeny tiny poops I'm going to have to clean up?
Dude, that's a full-time freaking job. That's crazy. I'm like a little scared for you.
Again in like 6 months when they hatch of like how things are going with my reptile chores, but so far so good.
Yeah, that's gonna be a big shift for you.
Yeah.
It's exciting, but it's gonna be.
Oh yeah.
Luckily, I'm
naive currently, so I'm living in my bubble.
Luckily, I'm here to help. So
you're the auntie. You don't have to deal with all the chores.
But if I need to come help, I'm happy to help always.
I appreciate that.
Here for you. You feed my dog's water bowl during a party, I'll come pop over and take care of the babies.
Take care of a little baby poop. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, okay. So that's going to wrap up that section. Mm-hmm. But please let us know if you have any tips and tricks, anything that works for you, your routines, or, any questions you have when it comes to like maintenance and chores.
I will always take any tips, any advice to simplify. So give us your ideas.
Yes. Okay. So switching gears, we have a non-reptile topic.
Yeah.
So for anyone who's keeping tabs on my love life or lack thereof, I've gone on a couple of dates, and by a couple, I mean 3.
Yes.
3 dates with a guy, not the guy for me, right? And that's totally fine. But then how do you end things with someone when you've only been on 1 date, 2 dates, 3 dates?
Yeah.
Where it's like you're not in a relationship. This is not a breakup, but you want to give them the courtesy of like ending things.
And it's so hard because it's one of those things where like there's so many different ways that you could go with it, and it really just depends on like the vibe that's being put out.
We narrowed down 4 scenarios.
Yes.
Option 1, you text the guy.
Yeah.
Or girl, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's the scenario that I went with. We'd only been on 3 dates. Yeah. Like,
because at that point it's like what do you owe them, right? It's
literally
like
nothing.
Like exactly. And so
I do like to be courteous and like
respectful. We like to be like kind, compassionate human beings, So it's like you have to think about those things, but it's like, I mean, there is the ghosting option, and
okay, that is another option. But what are some scenarios where texting is like the appropriate? Because I feel like in this instance,
I think most of the time
he was a stand-up guy,
yeah,
right, just not my guy,
right.
And I just sent a very nice like had a great time getting to know you the last couple weeks, but for like X and Y reason, which I do think it's nice if you can provide them just one reason that like they can have some like
for sure
closure with.
And I will say, for me, most of the time, a text is the way that I'm going to go, right? Yeah. Like I feel like that is the easiest, the least stressful. Like unless you guys like really hit it off and then all of a sudden you like flipped a switch and you're like, never mind, then maybe it deserves a phone call or in person. But like most of the time, I feel like a text is sufficient.
And his response was totally understand, take care.
Beautiful.
Done.
Beautiful.
Done. Right?
Perfect.
But then there was someone else a couple months ago that we had gone on probably like 7, 8 dates at this point. Yeah. And it was like gaining some serious momentum. And we had some conversations of like whether or not, he was like ready for a relationship. And I was like, you noodle on it and like let me know where you land on it. And he had decided like actually not this time in his life.
This man was not ready.
Whatever. And that's totally fine, right? I'm glad you figured that out sooner than later. But that was a phone call. Yes. Right? So that's like a little bit different.
But that's at the point where like you've been on 7 or 8 dates, right? Like you've spent significant amount, not significant,
it was like
but
a month and a half or something like that.
Yeah, like those are the situations to me that deserve a phone call or in person, one of the two. Yeah. But like before
and things were definitely like progressing, right? Like it was definitely moving in the right direction versus the 3rd date guy, stagnant. Right? It was not moving anywhere. Yeah. Things weren't like, there wasn't that like connection. Yeah. So it was just like, peace. You know, versus the other one is like, had that momentum. So then I feel like you kind of like, warrants a conversation.
You know what I think is also just an interesting part of this conversation? And we kind of talked about it earlier when we were catching up when you first got here. But like, it's like, okay, let's be honest. Usually when you have like a reason to kind of like, it's like, okay, we've been on 3 dates. I'm not feeling it. I'm going to dip out. There's usually at least... There's not always just one reason, right? But it's like, which reason are we giving the guy? Like
the one that has the least wiggle room.
Yeah. Like you want to pick whatever the reason that you don't like him or the reason or her, whatever, the reason you don't want to be with this person or that you like want to give them, it's like there's your personal reasons, but then there's the reasons that are like, okay, they can't argue with this.
Yeah.
Like, they can't push back. It's just
if you're like, I don't want to do an out-of-state relation or like a long-distance relationship, like, cool. So unless you're moving, this is done.
Yeah.
Right? And like, you can't argue with that.
It's like, you can't argue with that. You can't argue with if you have a difference in like religion, if you have a difference in politics, if you have a different in
whatever it is for you.
Whatever your deal breaker is that is like a non-negotiable, and you just let them know that, it's like, okay, cool. Like, what else are they going to have to say?
Right.
Like, we want this quote unquote breakup. It's not a real breakup, but like, we want this like situationship ending text message to be like not refutable, right?
Yeah.
Like
give them a nice intro,
Yes.
like enjoyed, blah blah blah.
You've been so nice,
after
but
the first date, right? And you've realized like
truly
this is not it, and you're just like, thank you so much for dinner last night. It was like lovely getting to meet you, but like I just don't think we're compatible. Like, wish you all the best in the dating world. I've sent that text so many times.
To the point
where it's not even a text because they don't even have my phone number yet. It's literally through the app.
When I was single, I actually used to have a note in my phone that I had this like, I had like a little bit of like a draft written out.
No, I legit, so I sent the message today to this guy and I literally asked Google. I was like, what is a nicely worded message to send someone after a couple of dates?
You could like have ChatGPT like writing your breakup text.
If I had that like subscription, I absolutely would have done that. No, I went to Reddit and that worked for me. So.
That's solid. No, that's solid. But I will say also the other option that we mentioned earlier, you can always ghost. And in my opinion, for me personally, I'm not a ghoster. I don't like to ghost people.
No, I'm with you.
But when I personally find ghosting to be completely okay and acceptable is if you feel unsafe.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Like,
just
if
cut communication.
Yeah. Like, if you pick up, I mean, let's be honest, like we have our intuition. We know when the vibes are not right. And if you feel unsafe, if you feel uncomfortable, ghost that human being. It is totally okay.
You do not owe them anything. You do not owe them an explanation, communication. Like, do not be afraid to like block a number, block them on social media, like whatever you got to do to feel good. Like, you got to protect yourself.
Yeah. If you feel unsafe, you get out of Dodge fast. Listen to that gut.
One time, like, I also think another time ghosting is okay is when it's like a mutual ghosting. Like when the person starts to pull back and like you can tell they're losing interest or they're not interested, and you are also losing interest and you're not interested.
Yeah.
I call that the mutual ghost.
Well, it's also like a natural ghosting. It's like the conversation is just ending and nobody's restarting it, right?
Correct.
Like I wouldn't even.
And you've made your peace. You're like, I'm okay if they never text me again.
If they never hit me up again, we good. Like, I'm not upset about this.
So technically, did you ghost the person?
Kinda.
Yes, but it's mutual and they seem fine with it. So then, like, it doesn't warrant a formality or a conversation for that.
And that, like you said, it's a mutual ghosting. So I don't think there's anything like wrong with that. That's just like, sometimes that just happens.
Yeah, it just kind of fizzles out. It's mutual. Or you go on the date and you're like, you're not really feeling it. They're not really feeling it. You're like, okay, well, like, we should do this again sometime. Never hear from them. And you're like, that's cool.
But then there's also, I'm having like flashbacks to like my single days. These
is
really
like the not good ones.
But like, then there's also the ones where like you send the really nice breakup text of like, hey, not interested. Let's move on. And then they keep hitting you up randomly. And you're like,
they always come back.
They always come back. This, especially to any of our younger listeners, just know they always come back. They like literally, even when you're married, they
6
still
months,
try to come back.
9 months,
it's
2
crazy.
years, 5 years, doesn't matter.
They
always
back.
Come back
one way or another. One day, 1 year, they will be back. They always are.
Yeah, no, I totally get you. So then the last scenario, you write down text, phone call, ghost, and then in person.
Yeah, and I feel like in person is really only warranted in the situations where, like you said, if it's been like over like 5 or 6 dates and you've like spent quality time with this person and you've like bonded on any type of level, like emotional, physical, mental, like anything, like it's so hard because it's one of those things. It's kind of in your gut. Like, when it deserves an in-person conversation.
I would say generally though, in those first couple of dates, like literally couple, like 2 or 3 dates, does not warrant an in-person conversation.
Or even a phone call.
Is if you want to send the message because, you know, you want to let them know what's going on, I think that's totally appropriate. I think that's courteous. I think that's
super
nice. People are so respectful
yeah.
and understanding. Anytime I've done it, they've been like, understood,
Mm-hmm.
wish you the best, whatever. Like, I've never gotten
negative,
you know, whatever.
responses.
No. But I think in person, and the person who ended up being the phone call, like, I asked him, I was like, do you want to meet up or do you want to, like, just have a phone call? He said phone call. And I was like, I know exactly which way you've decided. Because, like, you're not calling me to tell me you want to date me.
No.
So, like,
yeah.
Understood.
Well, and that's also one of those things too, where like you can kind of get a gut feel of like, okay, is it worth meeting up with this person again? Or am I still hesitant? Am I still like sure about my decision? Am I not? Like those are usually the more in-person ones.
Yeah.
But if you've made up your mind and you don't want to waste the time, like a phone call suffices as well, you know?
Yep.
So
I'm with you on that one. So let us know what your thoughts are. If you kind of have like a gut feeling or best practices when it comes to, or maybe you have a script that you like to,
I certainly did.
like to send people.
I had a note in my phone and I would tweak
name.
it. I would tweak it to be relevant to the person.
Yeah.
And be like,
love that.
Bye-bye.
Keep it simple. Keep it to the point.
Yeah.
Don't leave the door open. Don't do the just stay friends. Just like call it as you see it and like the end.
Yeah. Agreed.
Cool.
Agreed.
Okay, so the last thing I wanted to talk about was actually this TV show that you recommended to me. It's called High Potential.
It's so good. I'm really, really loving it right now. And I'm currently 1 week behind on episodes. So she's caught up. I'm not caught up yet.
But I wanted to talk about it because it brought up a common myth, and no spoilers here, but like poison dart frogs actually being poisonous, right? And so this is like a common misconception, and like I totally get it because it's literally in the name. And is a poisonous dart frog technically poisonous?
Right.
Yes, if it's a wild poison dart frog in like Africa, wherever they originate.
Well, and they technically could be poisonous in captivity, but that's only if you are feeding them their natural diet that comes from their native region.
Yes,
and all this stuff.
I did some homework on this. Yeah. It's like a combination of the bugs they eat and the plants that allows them to form the toxin.
Is it fire ants? Like a type of
It's
ant?
a combination.
Oh, okay.
It's not just like one specific thing that they're eating. It's like a special secret sauce of like the combination, like the ratios of all of it that like allow them to do this.
The secret Krabby Patty formula.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But for poison dart frogs.
Yeah.
So anyways, like on this episode, and again, this is like within the first 5 minutes of the episode, so and by the time this podcast comes out, like if you're on the show, like you already know
it'll be a couple
what's
weeks.
happening. But like this person dies from the poison dart frog. And it was like an exotic vet episode, and I was so stoked because I'm like, yes, this is like my niche that like is very rarely shown on TV, right? This is a fairly new show. This is like 4th episode in.
Well, it's like, it feels like this episode is like made for you. It's like,
and then they show that she dies from a poisoned dart frog, and I was like,
you're like, this is stupid.
Me?
You're like, this is wrong.
Not to mention like a bunch of other things that are wrong with the episode, but like you haven't seen it, so like I don't want to give any spoilers. But I'm like, that's such a common misconception.
Yeah.
So like I did more digging on this. Apparently, importing poison dart frogs has been illegal for over 25 years.
Oh, wow.
So in order for this poison dart frog to actually kill this person
it would have to be over 20 years old.
Or it has to be illegally imported.
Yeah, that too.
And then it would have had to like only recently been imported where it was still considered toxic. Like there's so many things that would have had to happen for this to even be remotely plausible.
That is so fascinating. Dang.
Yeah.
That's...
So
wow.
Going back to our episode where we did the Mythbusters, I just wanted to put this caveat out there.
No,
because
this is yet another myth.
Frogs, and I guess we haven't touched on this. Captive diets for poison dart frogs do not make them poisonous. It is only their wild diet that allows them to secrete the toxicity.
And that's so fascinating that it's like a combo of everything too. I didn't realize that because I had always been told it was like a specific like poisonous like ant or something that they
ate. That's my Google search. Who knows how valid that is? But that's at least what Google said.
If you're a dart frog person, please let us know because we would like to know a little bit more info.
Yeah, neither of us are frog keepers to be clear. But I do know they're not poisonous.
Right.
If they're captive.
Yes.
So
it's like the one thing that I know about dart frogs.
Because then I was like, maybe this is a wild dart frog, right? In the episode, and like that's why
always could be a chance.
Whatever. But then I looked it up and they've been illegal to import. So I'm like, Well, then how are you getting this?
I mean,
dart frog?
we know we can't expect Hollywood to be accurate.
I know.
Come on.
Yeah. Anyways, so just wanted to put another little myth buster.
Yeah.
Maybe some of you knew that, some of you didn't know that, but I thought that was just like a kind of fun tidbit.
Yeah. And if you've got any other fun facts about dart frogs and their diet, let us know.
Yeah, always happy to learn.
Mm-hmm. And that's a species I know there are many dart frog species, but I'm very interested in the potential of keeping dart frogs and mourning geckos together eventually one day. So definitely would like to hear more.
I do enjoy the froggies.
Mm-hmm. They're so cute.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I feel like it was a good balance of like reptile stuff, like
girly stuff, dating stuff.
Exactly. We need that sometimes. So thank you guys for tuning in. As always, be sure to subscribe, rate the podcast, leave us a comment, follow the podcast on all the socials. You can follow me at Neptune the Chameleon.
Lyssa's Lizards everywhere, and the podcast is at the Wild Tech Podcast everywhere.
Yes, all the places. Mm-hmm. So thank you, ladies and gents, for tuning in, and we will catch you guys in the next episode.
Bye, girlies.